My name is Ava Carter. And the night my childhood ended didn't come with a warning. Came with a slammed door, a broken lamp, and the sound of my baby brother crying in the dark. I was 15 years old. Old enough to understand that some goodbyes don't come with hugs. They come with suitcases dragged across linoleum floors and whispered arguments that turn into shouts. Mom and Dad had been fighting for weeks. About bills. About work. About each other. I thought it was just another storm we'd survive. Through all, we'd survived plenty. Cold winters without heat. Eviction notices tucked under the door. The nights when dinner was just 2 slices of white bread and some ketchup. But that night felt different. My little brother, Benji, was only 3. He sat on the couch clutching his teddy bear wide-eyed, his tiny mouth trembling. I remember kneeling in front of him, blocking his view of Mom throwing dishes into a garbage bag. "Where are you going?" I asked. Mom didn't answer. Dad didn't look at me. I stood in their path, heart hammering. "You can't just leave." "What about Benji?" Dad snapped. "You're old enough. Figure it out." Mom yanked her coat on and muttered, "We need space. We'll come back when we can." Then the door slammed so hard the window panes rattled. Their car roared to life outside. And then silence. I waited. For the sound of tires crunching back up the driveway. For a key turning in the lock. For anything. Nothing came. Just Benji's soft hiccuping sobs behind me. I turned around. His tiny arms reached up for me. His face wet and crumpled like a wrung-out towel. "Mama," he whimpered. My throat closed up. I couldn't tell him the truth, that they weren't coming back. That from this moment on it was just him and me. So I did the only thing I could. I scooped him into my arms, buried my face in his soft hair, and whispered, "I'm here. I promise. I'm not going anywhere." I didn't know how we'd pay rent, or buy food, or survive the winter. But I knew one thing with brutal, blinding clarity: no one else was coming. And somehow that knowledge didn't crush me. Carved me into something harder, something sharper. I wasn't just Ava Carter anymore. I was Benji's everything now, whether I was ready or not. The first thing I learned about survival was this: no one cares how old you are when you can't pay rent. Mr. Dupree, our landlord, gave me a week. 7 days to come up with half the month's rent, or he'd change the locks. I had $32 in a coffee tin under the sink. Enough for maybe 2 days of food if we skipped breakfast. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I packed Benji's favorite blanket, stuffed 2 peanut butter sandwiches into a Ziploc, and strapped him into the only stroller we had left. The job hunt began that morning. I walked into every diner, grocery store, and gas station within a 2-mile radius. I smiled. I begged. I lied about my age. "I'm 17, I said. "Just trying to help my family out." Most places turned me away. Too young. No experience. Some didn't even look up from their newspapers. But by sunset, Mrs. Torres at the corner laundromat agreed to pay me $20 cash per night if I cleaned the floors after closing. $20. It wasn't enough. But it was something. That night, I put Benji to sleep on a mattress dragged into the living room. It was closer to the only heater that worked. I tucked every spare blanket around him, kissed his forehead, and slipped out the door, keys clenched tight in my hand. I scrubbed that laundromat floor until my fingers bled. I mopped up spilled detergent, scraped gum off dryer doors, and cleaned toilets that made me gag. When I finished, Mrs. Torres handed me a crumpled $20 bill. "You work hard," she said. "You'll make it." I nodded. I didn't believe her. Not yet. I bought 2 loaves of day-old bread and a carton of powdered milk from the discount bin. I dug through the clearance shelf for cans with dents. Benji needed calories. I needed endurance. Over the next few weeks, survival became a rhythm. Work. Hustle. Stretch every dollar until it screamed. Tape Benji's shoes together when the soles wore out. Patch my own jeans with dental floss. Smile at the food bank volunteer when she handed me a sack of bruised apples. Every night, I carried Benji from his mattress and tucked him into my bed. I squeezed his little body against mine, listening to his soft breaths. I was exhausted. Beyond tired. My body broke in places I didn't know could hurt. But I never stopped moving. 'Cause stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant remembering the people who should have been doing this instead of me. Some nights, when I thought Benji was asleep, I'd whisper into the dark. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm trying so hard." And sometimes his tiny voice would whisper back, barely awake. "Love you, Ava." Those 3 words stitched the cracks in my heart just long enough to make it to morning. Winter came early that year. Kind of cold that seeped into your bones even before the first snow fell. Our apartment's heater coughed out more dust than heat. Every night I'd bundle Benji up in all the sweaters we owned, layering him like a fragile onion, praying it would be enough. I kept working at the laundromat, picking up extra shifts whenever Mrs. Torres could spare them. I was surviving on vending machine crackers and black coffee. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. One Thursday night, Mrs. Torres asked if I could stay an extra 2 hours. Someone had spilled bleach all over the dryers. It was already past Benji's bedtime. But $20 more could mean real groceries, maybe even eggs. I kissed Benji's forehead, tucking him tighter into the mattress by the heater. "Stay here, okay? I'll be back before you wake up." I whispered it like a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. He blinked up at me with those huge brown eyes, full of trust, full of something else I couldn't name yet. I hesitated at the door. Something inside me screamed, "Don't leave." But I left anyway. The laundromat was nearly empty by midnight. My arms ached from scrubbing metal, my fingers raw from bleach. I finished the last dryer, clocked out, and rushed home, my legs like rubber, my heart in my throat. I found Benji sitting by the door, his teddy bear clutched against his chest, his cheeks wet with silent tears. I dropped to my knees. "Baby, what's wrong? What are you doing out of bed?" He wiped his nose with the back of his hand, trembling so hard I could feel it without touching him. Then he said it. His voice cracked and tiny and broken. "Mama, don't go." I froze. "Not Ava." "Mama." I pressed my forehead against his, my hands framing his little tear-streaked face. "I'm not Mama, baby," I whispered. "I'm Ava. I'm your sister." He shook his head. "Mama's gone. You stay." And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Not with anger, but with a fierce, aching tenderness. I pulled him into my arms, rocking him like a lifeline. "Okay," I said, my voice shaking. "Okay, Benji. I'll stay. I promise." We sat like that for what felt like hours, curled up in the cold, broken apartment, clinging to each other like survivors on a sinking ship. He fell asleep in my lap, fingers still tangled in my sweatshirt. That night, I stopped being just a big sister. I became a mother, whether I was ready or not. And somehow, in the middle of all that grief, in the middle of a life that felt like it was falling apart, his voice made me whole. Life didn't magically get easier after that night. Rent was still overdue more often than not. Dinner was still a rotation of canned soup, bruised bananas, and day-old bread. But somehow, Benji's tiny voice calling me Mama each morning made it bearable. Somehow, hearing him hum tuneless songs while building towers out of soup cans made the gray walls of our apartment feel less empty. I still worked nights at the laundromat, but now I used my mornings differently. I found a battered old laptop someone had thrown away behind the gas station. Barely powered on. The screen flickered like a dying star. But it was enough. Every morning, after feeding Benji and patching whatever piece of his clothes tore next, I sat at the rickety kitchen table, typing out scholarship essays while he colored in used grocery flyers beside me. "Tell them why you should win," Benji would say, waving a crayon. "Tell them you're the best." Some days I believed him. Most days I just wrote the truth. My family fell apart. I am raising my brother. I work nights. I study in the mornings. I want a chance to build something better. I applied for every community college program I could find. I applied for every scholarship that didn't require a family contribution. Most of the time, I got nothing but silence in return. Rejections filled my inbox like unpaid bills. Unfortunately, at this time, we regret to inform you. I printed each one out, pinned them on the back of the door. A wall of no's. So that every morning when I left for the laundromat, I'd see them and know what I was fighting against. Then one Monday afternoon in March, while Benji was napping on the mattress, my cracked phone buzzed. An email subject line blinked at me. "Congratulations." I opened it with shaking hands. Full tuition. Community college. Starting in September. A $500 living stipend to help with books and transportation. It wasn't Harvard. It wasn't fancy. But it was ours. I let out a sound, half laugh, half sob, and clamped my hand over my mouth so I wouldn't wake Benji. I knelt by the mattress, pressed my forehead to the dusty floor, and cried the kind of tears that didn't taste like sadness, but like relief. When Benji woke up, he rubbed his eyes, and I scooped him up and spun him around, dizzy with joy. "We did it," I whispered against his messy hair. "Benji, we did it." He laughed. That pure, bubbling laugh kids have when they don't even know why they're happy. Just that someone they love is. That night, we celebrated the only way we knew how. I let him put 3 marshmallows instead of 2 in his hot chocolate. We built a fort out of blankets and couch cushions. We stayed up way past bedtime, reading library books by flashlight. We didn't have much, but we had each other. And now, we had a future to chase. It was a Saturday morning when the knock came. Sharp, heavy. Not the neighbor's polite tap or the postman's casual rap. This one sounded like it wanted something. I wiped flour-streaked hands on my jeans. Benji sat at the kitchen table, coloring dinosaurs in a second-hand workbook. "Stay there, baby," I said, though my gut already told me nothing good was waiting behind that door. I cracked it open, chain still latched, and stared. It had been 2 years. 2 whole years since that night. Since they had disappeared without a backward glance. And now here they were. Mom and Dad. Mom wore sunglasses even though it was cloudy. Dad had a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, looking thinner, older, but still carrying that same entitled scowl. "Ava," Mom said, like she was commenting on the weather. Like my name didn't taste like ashes in my mouth. I didn't move. Didn't unlatch the door. "We're back," Dad said, smiling like it was a joke. "We had some rough patches, but we're here now. We can pick up where we left off. I blinked. Pick up where we left off? As if you could abandon your kids and just hit resume like a paused movie. Benji's chair scraped loudly across the kitchen floor behind me. Mama? Who's at the door? My heart twisted. He called me Mama. In front of them. Dad's mouth twitched like he was about to say something cruel, I could tell. Mom shot him a warning look. We miss you, honey, she said, voice sticky sweet. We miss Benji, too. We want to be a family again. Family. That word. It used to sound warm. Now it sounded like a trap. I tightened my grip on the door. My voice, when it came, was steady. Colder than the November air curling around us. You laughed, I said. We figured it out. Ava, don't be stubborn, Dad said, stepping forward. You can't raise a kid on your own forever. Let us help. I almost laughed. Help? Where was there help when I scraped gum off laundry floors until my knuckles bled? Where was there help when Benji sobbed himself to sleep, asking for a mom who never came back? Mom tried again. You look tired, sweetie. You look like you need a break. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. I'm tired, I said quietly, because I stayed when you didn't. The words hung between us, heavy and undeniable. They shifted, uncomfortable now. The facade cracking. You're still just a kid, Dad muttered, almost like a weapon. You don't know what you're doing. I straightened up. And for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't scared of them anymore. Maybe, I said. But Benji's fed. He's warm. He laughs every day. Can you say the same? They said nothing. I closed the door slowly, firmly, letting the latch click back into place like a final period at the end of a long, painful sentence. Benji ran over and wrapped his arms around my legs. Mama, he asked, voice small. I scooped him up, holding him so tight he squeaked. It's okay, baby, I whispered into his hair. They don't get to decide who we are anymore. Not ever again. Time has a way of sharpening things, like a blade across stone. In the years that followed, Benji grew up faster than I ever wanted. Too fast. One moment, he was a 3-year-old building castles out of soup cans. The next, he was 12, tall enough to reach the top shelves without asking for help. He still called me Mama sometimes, especially when he was tired or scared. Other times, it was just Ava, but always with a tenderness that wrapped around my heart like a warm blanket. We built a life. Not perfect. Not easy. But ours. I finished community college, took a job managing inventory at a small logistics company. Enough to pay for a better apartment, a real school for Benji, real doctors, real shoes that didn't need duct tape. We were okay. Not rich. But we had something far more precious, stability. Then came the letter. Folded into a cheap envelope, slipped under the door. From them. Again. This time it wasn't just sweet talk. It was legal. Custody papers. They wanted Benji back. I sat on the couch staring at the words like they were written in another language. After everything. After years of nothing but silence. They thought a piece of paper could undo what we had built. I didn't tell Benji right away. He had a science fair project coming up, his first real one, and I didn't want to ruin it. But kids are smarter than we think. Smarter than we want to admit. One night, while we were washing dishes, he said, "They're coming back, aren't they?" I froze. The soap bottle slipped from my fingers and thudded into the sink. "I heard you on the phone," he said. "You were crying." I wiped my hands on my jeans, turned to face him. "Benji," I started, voice shaking. But he cut me off. I'm not going with them. His voice didn't waver. His hands didn't shake. You're my family, he said. You're my home. I don't care what a paper says. I opened my mouth. To argue, to tell him he was too young to understand. But I couldn't find the words. He understood more than I ever gave him credit for. Benji dried his hands carefully on the dish towel. Then he walked over, stood on his tiptoes, and pressed his forehead against mine. Just like he used to when he was little. You stayed, he whispered. They left. That's all I need to know. Tears burned behind my eyes. Hot, blinding. I cupped the back of his head with one hand, pulling him into a fierce hug. In that moment, all the nights I spent scrubbing laundromat floors, all the skipped meals, all the rejections, all the broken promises I whispered into the dark, they all melted into something new. Validation. Victory. Family. Not the one I was born into. The one I fought for. The one I chose. And most importantly, the one that chose me back. Rock bottom has a way of humbling even the proudest people. Took another year. 1 year of silence. No birthday cards. No Christmas calls. No apologies. And then, a knock at the door. Not the sharp, demanding knock of before. This one was hesitant, almost afraid. I knew it was them before I even looked through the peephole. Mom stood there first, wringing her hands, makeup smeared like she'd been crying. Dad lurked behind her, thinner than ever, his eyes darting everywhere but at me. I didn't open the door right away. I let them wait. Finally, I clicked the latch. Ava, Mom said, voice cracking. Please. We need to talk. I crossed my arms, leaned against the doorframe, said nothing. Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. We lost the house. Some bad investments. Some debts. I nodded slowly, like I was hearing about strangers. We don't have anywhere to go. Mom whispered. We're homeless, Ava. Please. We just need a little help. Just until we get back on our feet. Behind me, Benji appeared in the hallway. Now 13, almost as tall as my shoulder. Wearing his soccer hoodie and a guarded look. He said nothing. Just stared. Dad tried to smile at him. Hey, champ. You've gotten so big. Benji didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Finally, I spoke. Calm. Even. When we needed you, you left. Mom opened her mouth to interrupt, but I held up a hand. You didn't just leave once, I said. You left over and over and over. Every birthday. Every school project. Every sickness. Every fear. Every night. Their faces crumpled, but I didn't stop. We built a life, I continued. Without you. We're not your safety net. We're not your backup plan. Benji stepped forward, his voice steady in a way that made my chest ache with pride. You lost your chance, he said. We're not your family anymore. Dad flinched. Mom's shoulders sagged like someone had sliced her strings. I didn't slam the door this time. I just closed it slowly, softly, as final as the sunrise. Behind me, Benji slipped his hand into mine. No words needed. We stood there, hand in hand, listening to the wind whistle through the cracks where the past used to live. Healing doesn't come with fireworks. Doesn't arrive like a parade down your street. Comes quietly, like a sunrise through dirty windows. like the soft clink of 2 mugs at breakfast, like laughter you didn't have to force. After that night, after the final closing of the door, Benji and I didn't talk about them much, not out of anger, but because we didn't need to anymore. We had a life to live. He finished middle school, grinning ear to ear as he crossed the gym stage, holding his certificate. Cried so hard I embarrassed both of us. He started high school, made the JV soccer team, spent whole afternoons practicing free kicks at the park while I watched with thermos coffee and a heart that ached with pride. I got a better job, then a promotion, then a car that didn't break down every time it rained. We celebrated every small thing like it was Christmas. First paycheck, pancakes for dinner, passed math test, 2 scoops at the ice cream shop, found $5 on the sidewalk, movie night. We didn't need grand gestures. We just needed each other. One Saturday morning, almost 4 years after that final knock, we stood outside a little townhouse with peeling paint and a crooked porch light. The bank lady handed me a set of keys. Benji hooped so loud I thought the windows might shatter. Our own place. Not rented. Ours. I opened the front door with shaking hands. The living room smelled like dust and old wood and possibility. Benji dropped his backpack onto the floor with a dramatic thud. "It's not huge," I said, laughing through the tears already burning my eyes. "It's not fancy." He grinned, running a hand along the battered banister. "It's home. Simple as that." That night, we ate takeout on the floor. No plates. Just greasy paper bags and crumpled napkins and the kind of happiness you don't have to explain. After dinner, we climbed onto the tiny front porch, watched the sunset paint the sky with bruised purples and golds. Benji leaned his head against my shoulder. "You did it," he said, so soft I almost didn't hear him. I smiled, brushing a hand through his hair. "No," I whispered back. "We did." We sat there until the stars blinked awake, until the world around us disappeared into a soft, humming quiet. And for the first time in our lives, we weren't waiting for someone to come save us. We had saved ourselves. We had built a home, out of loyalty and love and laughter and late-night ramen noodles. A home no one could take away. Our own sunrise.